Hi everyone, it is Kimber, the study abroad specialist here. And in today's video, we are going to be discussing the question that I definitely get asked a lot, and that's, can I work while I study abroad? So I want to start out this video by just saying that I am not a lawyer. I am not here to give you legal advice. And I'm also not here to give you professional financial advice. I'm not an accountant either. But I did want to get on here and talk about this question specifically about being able to work while studying abroad, because I get this question quite a bit in my advising program that I do for students, and also to just students who reach out to me and people that I have known who are going abroad and they're trying to figure out what can they do in terms of money. Now, I just want to say that I am taking this particular video from a college level / uni level students, so students who are, maybe in their 4 years of college here in the US or in Canada, or in their 3 years of uni over in the UK or other parts of Europe. I'm not necessarily looking at it from a high school level, because again, most of the time, I would say a large amount of the time, kids who are in high school and they're studying abroad, their parents are still fully supporting them. They haven't even graduated yet, so they're in a different situation. And then for a lot of students who are graduate students who are studying abroad, a lot of the time, you may have worked before you decide to go back to school, so you probably have some money saved up, or you may be someone who maybe do things on the side, maybe you do freelance work, maybe you do consulting with people, maybe you do different types of things. So I tend to find that a lot of graduate students are a tad bit more financially stable. For whatever reason, it could just be because they're older and maybe they've learned some lessons along the way, or two, a lot of students, when they go to grad school, they tend to have done it, not directly after college, like yours truly here. So the first factor for thinking about whether or not, and again, I want to say that this is very generalized, so it's not about a specific location or country. I can dive deeper into that in other videos. However, I just wanted to kind of keep it very general to give you some things to think about. So the first kind of point to think about for can you work when you're studying abroad is going to be the duration of your stay, because you need to factor in whether or not you're going to need to work. So is it really going to be viable for you and important for you to find a job if you're only going to be in a place for, let's say, the summer semester, so for 4 or 5 weeks? Does that even really add up to you? Maybe it does, but is it going to be important to do that versus, maybe if you are there for 6 months, that is a different situation. Again, like as you go on, you probably are going to need more things, and maybe you don't have any support from home. Maybe you do have some support, but it's just based on supporting you for your tuition and for maybe your housing or whatever it is. But if you want pocket money, you're going to have to use money that you've been saving up. And so you need to sort of think through, I would say, tackling it from what your budget is probably going to be. And I know that that could be really intimidating, but you need to think of it that way, because if you're thinking about what your budget is going to be in correlation with the duration of your stay, that's basically going to give you a decent estimate of what you might need in terms of excess. So most students who are studying abroad, whether they are getting help from their parents or getting some type of financial aid, after they have the basic expenses covered, so your food, your shelter, and like your utilities, things like that you actually have to live and survive, and also to things like your school book, stuff like that is related to your course. A lot of times people will find that their biggest two expenses when they are studying abroad, outside of those things that you have to have every single day, are going to be sort of your food, which is obviously something that you need every day, but that can often be very expensive because you have to think about exchange rates, and of course now post 2021 you have to think about inflation. And so food is usually a huge expense, and then recreation / entertainment / travel, because that is a huge part of the ethos and sort of the culture of study abroad, where when students travel abroad to study abroad, they want to travel to other places nearby. They want to do fun things and have, the best time of their life. And I totally understand. I definitely did that while I was, studying abroad, but you have to be able to factor that in. And so in thinking about whether or not you should try to pursue working, or if it's even possible, you have to think about the duration of your stay, because again, there's probably not really a lot of employers, no matter where you're going, that are interested in just hiring someone for 4 weeks if they can get someone who's going to be there just regularly and not kind of going to be leaving the country very soon. So you need to sort of think that out. So definitely factor in what your budget is going to be and figure out if it's going to be possible for you to maybe get away with not working while you're abroad, or if you have to sort of think through maybe things that you can do that are going to be very temporary. So most countries have temporary job pools. It may not be things that are most glamorous to you. It could be where you are maybe helping out at the airport, or maybe you have to help clean offices or whatever it is. It may not be things that are necessarily really exciting and glamorous, but if you are looking for a temporary job and it does fit in with the duration of your stay, and it's just something that you can do to make extra money while you are there, then that is something that you could consider and something that you might want to look into. So for this next one, people often ask, why don't you just start with this? For me, I always like to sort of set it up by saying that I think that duration of stay really kind of shapes a lot of decisions, and also to just having an idea of your budget first and foremost is going to be really helpful to you before you sort of dive off into making any type of financial decisions or any decisions. So definitely have those two things clear. But I will say that for number 2, which is probably the most important one, which why people say it should be number 1, is you need to know what the rules of engagement are. I can just use that term with your visa. So that's going to be super important. And this is where I always just like to give my spiel. I know that, again, people are in different situations. Even if you are studying abroad and it seems really glamorous and everything, you may actually need extra money, and it may not be, a joke to you. And, it's something that you really meant to do genuinely, where you're trying to make extra money. But I will just say that you want to definitely stay clear of opportunities to, get paid under the table. I know that that sounds really alluring to people, but I will just say that, even when I was studying abroad back in 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, and so on and so forth, I was there for so long, that, a lot of countries, host countries, so the countries where you're going, they were starting to crack down on that, but that has become a focal point for people. So, you may think that you're getting away with it, and you might be, but would you really want to risk it if, for some reason, maybe your home country, maybe you're coming from a place like the US where, this better than anyone. If you're from the US, the IRS can find out anything about anyone. And we can all have our opinions on the IRS, but do you really want to have to face that and face some type of penalty if you were getting paid, let's say, 50 euro under the table every other day from a company where, you just needed to make money? I would not think that that would be worth it. And it could have been prevented. The way that it can be prevented is to simply know your rules of your visa. Most countries that you're going to that are going to be either in Europe, or if you're going to the UK, or even coming here to the US or Canada or Asia, wherever, the majority of them actually do factor in knowing that people who are studying abroad may or may not need to make some type of money. So they're quite generous in that way of understanding that, you probably are not just going there just to study, and that you may have to supplement your income some way. Now, there are certain rules around that, because when you're just in university, it may be where you can only work for, let's say, 20, 25 hours per week, which is still good. That's still part-time, but it may be connected to your degree program. So it could be where, let's say you're in engineering, and that means that you can only work part-time in an office that is related to engineering. And maybe there are no jobs where you live that are offered part-time in engineering. So you kind of are canceled out in that way. Or it could be where, maybe you're allowed to do it, you're allowed to work, but you can only do an internship. I know that even when I was in graduate school, and I was blessed that they had it like built into where we had to do internship, but I had to actually get my program director to write a special letter so that I could have it on file with the US Embassy, saying that, even though I was still in school, I was working, but I was working an unpaid internship during my hours of school because it was built into the program. But on the visa that I was on at the time, they were saying that, a student could not work at all unless it was, sort of relate to what we were doing, which it was, but it wasn't a paid situation. And so it got a little bit tricky. And so I just had to have something on my file. So you definitely want to be clear about what it is, because at that time they were saying that, you couldn't really do any work at all, because I was considered a different type of student than an undergrad student. And so those have different rules. And so you want to be clear about whatever the rules are for you. The best way to sort of find this out is sort of twofold. So you definitely want to have a sort of in-depth conversation with your study abroad program advisor or whoever you are connecting with within your program. They have likely been doing this for a while. And so they will specifically be able to tell you, what have some other students been able to do if they have been working? What are some of the sort of general rules around working while you were in said country? They're going to know that stuff. And they're going to just be able to give you some ideas. And then the other thing too that you want to do is to make sure that when you submit your visa application, that you have a conversation, if you're doing it in person, it's really easy. But if you're even having to mail it in, like a lot of us have had to do in the past, you can always call later on. So maybe you submit your application and then a couple of weeks you call, because it often takes a little while for them to get it done. But you want to just call and have a conversation with someone there about what are the rules for someone, let's say, coming from Canada, going to live in the UK? Like, what are the rules, say, for this visa? Because the other interesting part about that is that even though, let's say, there may be, let's say, like the tier 4 visa from the UK, certain countries may have different rules that they have partnership with from the UK. So Canada may have a different rule that says for someone on tier 4, they can do this. The US probably has a different rule, because again, like now this isn't really relevant because the UK is not part of the EU, but it's like EU countries have different rules that they can partner with the UK on specific things about visas for students. And then the US as well has those different things. So you definitely want to also understand, like, from where you are coming from, what does that mean to go working, in a new country, and how does that impact you based on whatever visa you have? So you want to be very clear about those rules. And as I always say, you definitely just want to try and do everything as possible above board so that you don't find yourself in hot water later. And that you can say that, even if you are doing something where you need to make some extra money, that you're actually following the rules and so that you don't get in trouble. So number 3, following on from my point about number 2, which I think is very important. And I know that in a lot of countries, this may not be as relevant because it doesn't work how it works here in the US, but I think that just thinking through it in terms of your tax obligations is going to be very important. So with the taxes, again, this is why I was saying in my second point of, you never want to get into a situation where you're being paid below the table, because no matter where you are, no matter what country you're in, they have some type of tax system. It could be, a progressive tax system where, they're just taking it out as you go. It could be, where it is like in the UK, where it's like certain bracket levels don't have to pay a level of tax, but you still have to report it. Or it could be like it is here in the US, where everyone is getting taxed up the nose. And so you definitely have to have everything above board. And so you want to think through, again, based on what country you're coming from and where you're going, what are going to be the tax obligations and implications? Because there are some countries around the world where even though their citizens don't have to pay taxes, foreign students have to pay taxes, or foreign citizens, who are living there have to pay a certain level of tax. So you want to definitely consider that as you're thinking through whether or not you can work abroad. Again, sort of honing in on that first point that I made, is it actually worth it? If you are going to be someone who, let's say you're traveling to Ireland and you're going to be getting a 3-year degree, and so you're going to be there for a long time, that is a long time to, maybe just rely on your savings. That's different. But if you're just going for less than 6 months, less than 5 months, less than, even 3 months, it may not actually be worth the hassle of trying to find a job in order to supplement your income or pay for that extra vacation or whatever it is. You may want to just think about things on the front end of your trip and figure out, how can I save money? Or, even if it's maybe you're doing something like you're getting a loan from a friend before you go, or a loan from a parent before you go, and say, like, once I come back to my country. I will work hard, pay it off, but I just want to be able to have a little bit more security while I'm away. I think that that's going to be the smarter move, because again, as you get into tax obligations, that is a whole nother area where it's like it can be very tricky, and you never know like what's going to happen in terms of what the rules are always changing with that, and what countries are collecting and what they want to know and how they pass it off to your home country. It's very important to make sure that you have those things in a row so that you don't get caught up somewhere down the road where maybe it's like, maybe it impacts your credit score down the road, or maybe people find out that you didn't pay a bill that you didn't even know about, and it's like, well, I haven't lived in Japan for years. It's like, yeah, but you had this tax bill, and it's on an inquiry somewhere. It's like things like that do happen. And so I definitely just always like to stress to the students that I work with that you need to understand what the tax obligations are, not just for you from where you come from, but also to, if you do plan to take on work wherever you're studying abroad, what does that mean in terms of taxes for you? And what are you going to be sort of liable for once you start working? So definitely consider that as well. Okay, everyone. So I know that that was quite brief. Again, as I said, I haven't gone specifically into detail for every single visa for every country. I can dive deeper into that if you would like. If you would like to see more about working in specific countries, leave me a comment below and tell me what country you want to know more about, because I can definitely dive deeper into that. I do know a lot about that, but I wanted to just keep this sort of brief for you to just give you those 3 things to think about. So I hope that this was helpful for you. If you have any questions about working while you're abroad, or any study abroad questions at all, please feel free to reach out to me. All my information is linked below in the description box. You can also follow me on Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, and also please subscribe to this channel. I release videos every Friday, most Fridays, and also sometimes throughout the week, usually on Wednesdays. It's all about study abroad advice. I also ask that you please share this video. I know that if you are studying abroad, you probably have friends that would like to as well, and also give this video a like, and I will see you on the next one.